Jim Schwartz isn't leaving. That decision alone separates this head coaching search from everyone that's come before it in Cleveland. While the offensive side gets a total overhaul, Schwartz's top-tier defense remains locked in, creating a safety net for the Browns' rookie quarterback strategy. The logic is sound. If SHEDEUR Sanders is a centerpiece, then he needs time, reps, and room to breathe. By preserving defensive dominance, Cleveland's front office has already solved half the equation. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. That's not a fallback plan. It's a platform. This calculated stability is part of a bigger framework. The Browns aren't just preparing to draft SHEDEUR Sanders. They're designing every element of his launch sequence. From Dan Pitcher's Burrow experience to Todd Monen's offensive malleability and Tommy Rees's Alabama-hardened fundamentals, the staff is being selected to complement, not complicate, Sanders' learning curve. It's a move rooted in rare self-awareness, understanding that player success is environmental, not incidental. The Cleveland Browns have done something nobody expected. They've made the NFL stop and stare. Not because of chaos, not because of controversy, but because of strategy. Real, forward-thinking, long-term planning. That's right. The Browns are thinking ahead, and not just to their next head coach or quarterback. They're thinking about their entire identity. And at the center of all of it, SHEDEUR Sanders. It's no secret anymore. Everything the Browns are doing is a deliberate setup for drafting and developing SHEDEUR, someone who's not just talented, but mentally sharp, fundamentally polished, and ready to be the centerpiece of a franchise bold enough to actually build around him. The Browns aren't waiting to see who falls to them in the draft. They're not picking a quarterback and scrambling to piece together a staff around him. They've flipped that tired formula on its head. This time, the staff is coming first. Following Kevin Stefanski's departure, the Browns didn't go hunting for a big name or a one-size-fits-all solution. They lined up 5 serious coaching candidates, and every one of them fits into a bigger picture. This wasn't a scattershot approach. It was surgical. Dan Pitcher, Todd Monen, Tommy Rees, Jim Schwartz, Aiden Dunn. That's the list. And it's not random. Dan Pitcher, first of all, isn't just a quarterback coach with experience. He's a system guy. Someone who helped guide Joe Burrow, one of the most composed, intelligent quarterbacks in the game, through his transition from college to NFL star. Pitcher didn't just develop Burrow's game. He helped shape how Burrow processes, leads, and controls the offense. That's the kind of development Cleveland wants for SHEDEUR. And Andrew Berry knows Pitcher. Their working relationship isn't just theoretical. Berry is prioritizing alignment over optics, and that's a massive shift from the way Cleveland used to do business. No more forcing coaches and GMs into awkward marriages. No more mismatched visions. Pitcher represents cohesion, trust, and a proven blueprint for building around a quarterback with mental sharpness and accuracy as core strengths. Then there's Todd Monen, who might be the most fascinating name on this list. Why? Because he was so valuable in Baltimore that John Harbaugh refused to let him go, even after pressure from within the organization. And that refusal cost Harbaugh his job. That's how much Monen was respected. That's the kind of value he brings to the table. Monen stepped up when Lamar Jackson went down, keeping Baltimore's offense functional in one of the toughest divisions in the league. It wasn't flashy, but it was effective. He didn't fall apart. He didn't try to force square pegs into round holes. He adapted, adjusted, held the line. That kind of schematic flexibility, it's exactly what the Browns need. SHEDEUR isn't going to be Lamar Jackson. He's not a chaos play guy. He's a reader, a processor, a rhythm-based quarterback who thrives when the system is clear and designed around timing, reads, and execution. Monen understands how to shape his scheme around a quarterback's strengths, not the other way around. And there's another layer here. Harbaugh, with Harbaugh to Baltimore and his loyalty to Monen being what it is, the dots aren't hard to connect. There is a real possibility the Browns could pull off a Monen-Harbaugh reunion. And for a team that's often lacked national credibility, that's the kind of pairing that changes a conversation instantly. You go from interesting rebuild to potential powerhouse. Tommy Rees rounds out the offensive trio, and he's the wild card. Statistically, his time as interim OC in 2024 wasn't great. The offense didn't light up the scoreboard. The play calling looked outdated. And Deshaun Watson's decline only made things worse. But the Browns aren't judging him on what happened in the middle of a bad season. They're judging him on where he came from. Rees worked under Nick Saban at Alabama, arguably the greatest program in college football when it comes to preparing quarterbacks for the league. That kind of background isn't about style points. It's about structure. It's about knowing how to teach discipline, pocket awareness, and pro-style decision-making. That's the kind of coaching DNA that matters when you're grooming someone like SHEDEUR, who comes in with a technical foundation, but needs refinement at the pro level. And while the offense is being rebuilt, the defense is staying locked in. Jim Schwartz isn't going anywhere. And that's huge. You want to talk about giving a rookie quarterback breathing room? Look no further. Schwartz led a top-tier defense in 2024. He gave the Browns an identity. Grit, pressure, toughness. That's what he brings. And the front office knows better than to fix what isn't broken. Keeping Schwartz in place does two things. First, it stabilizes the entire locker room. Second, it gives SHEDEUR a chance to grow without being forced to win every game with his arm. When your defense is that good, you don't need shootouts. You just need smart football. That's the kind of environment young quarterbacks can thrive in. Then there's Aiden Dunn. He might not be the front runner. He might not get the job. But his interview says something loud and clear. The Browns are leaving nothing to chance. They're looking at every possible option, not just big names, not just resume busters. They're digging deep, evaluating everyone through the lens of quarterback development and long-term sustainability. It's not about the most recognizable face. It's about the right fit. And the most important part? All of this is happening before they even draft SHEDEUR Sanders. That's the shift. That's what makes this a potential turning point for Cleveland. Because for years, the Browns have done it backwards. They'd grab a quarterback and then panic build a staff around him. Or worse, they'd hire a staff that didn't fit the quarterback at all. It's how talented players got wasted. It's how promising seasons turned into disasters. It's how the team never had a clear identity. But now the Browns are finally acting like a real franchise. They're architecting a system with the quarterback in mind before he puts on the jersey. They're not just hoping SHEDEUR can survive the NFL. They're building a structure where he can thrive. And this kind of planning, it's what separates perennial contenders from perennial messes. Look at the best teams in the league. Kansas City built for Mahomes. Cincinnati tailored their offense for Burrow. San Francisco constructed a quarterback-friendly machine where even late-round picks can succeed. That's the formula. Build the system, then drop in the quarterback. That's what Cleveland is doing. And if this works, if they make the right hire, lock in SHEDEUR Sanders, and maintain defensive excellence, the AFC North is wide open. The Ravens are in transition. The Steelers are still quarterback shopping. The Bengals are a Burrow injury away from falling apart. The Browns, yes, the Browns, could become the most stable franchise in the division. That's not hype. That's a very real possibility. But make no mistake, if this fails, if they hire the wrong coach, blow the draft pick, or mismanage the roster again, then it's back to square one, and maybe for good, because opportunities like this don't come often. This is a rare, clear window, and Cleveland somehow is standing in the right spot at the right time. Let us know. Do you think the Browns are finally getting it right, or are they just setting us up for another letdown? Drop your take in the comments. Like the video if you're watching this with one eye open and both hands gripping the armrest. And don't forget to subscribe. We're tracking the biggest stories in football, and the Browns? Yeah, they're at the center of it all right now. So here we are. The Cleveland Browns, yes, those Browns, are executing what might be the most deliberate structured rebuild in the NFL right now. Not because they tore it all down, not because they fired everyone and started from scratch, but because they've done something far more shocking. They've learned. They've looked at decades of failure, of quarterback busts, of mismatched coaches and schemes and philosophies. And they've decided to try something different. Not louder, not flashier, just smarter. And you can trace that shift directly to the name no one in the building has officially confirmed, but everyone can clearly see at the center of this plan: SHEDEUR Sanders. No smokescreen, no mystery. The Browns are moving like a team that knows exactly who it wants to draft. And not only that, they're already building the environment around him. That level of confidence, that level of precision, that's not just rare for the Browns. That's rare for the NFL. Think about how most teams operate. They tank a season. They get a high pick. They draft a quarterback and hope the coaching staff figures it out. And if the QB fails, they clean house and do it all over again. That's how careers get wasted. That's how teams stay stuck. But Cleveland has flipped the script. Instead of dropping SHEDEUR into a broken machine and praying he can fix it, they're assembling the machine first. The gears, the blueprint, the support system, the whole operation. And it starts with those 5 head coaching candidates. Dan Pitcher isn't a household name, but he doesn't need to be. He's done the work. He was part of the team that turned Joe Burrow from an elite college quarterback into a franchise centerpiece. And not just in terms of mechanics. Burrow's processing, his understanding of defensive rotations, his command at the line of scrimmage. That's where Pitcher's fingerprints are. He knows how to develop a mentally sharp quarterback. He knows how to build a system that rewards precision. That's what SHEDEUR Sanders needs. And it's not a coincidence that Pitcher already has a working relationship with Andrew Berry. The Browns front office isn't just looking for a play caller. They're looking for alignment, cohesion, a coach and GM who can communicate, build together, and stay on message. If Pitcher's hired, you can bet that quarterback development won't be some side project. It'll be the core mission. Then there's Todd Monken. Monken's a guy everyone in Baltimore quietly knew was the brains behind the Ravens' offensive resilience. When Lamar Jackson went down, Monken didn't panic. He adapted the system, made it work, did just enough to keep the offense above water. That might not sound glamorous, but in this league, it's gold. Flexibility is everything. A coach who can adjust the scheme to fit the quarterback, not force the quarterback into the scheme. That's what wins in today's NFL. And again, don't forget the Harbaugh connection. Monken was so valued by John Harbaugh that Harbaugh refused to fire him, even under pressure. That loyalty cost Harbaugh his job. And now, with Harbaugh out in Baltimore, the possibility of him joining the Browns, especially if Monken is involved, isn't just clickbait. It's strategic chess. That's how big this move could be. Now let's talk about Tommy Rees. His name won't light up social media, but his experience matters. Yes, his stint as the Browns' interim OC in 2024 was rough. The offense looked stale. But here's the thing, that wasn't his offense. He walked into a bad setup with a declining Deshaun Watson, and no time to install anything new. What Rees does bring is his background at Alabama. Working under Nick Saban, Rees was part of a program that built NFL quarterbacks the right way. Clean mechanics, playbook mastery, decision-making. It's not about big plays. It's about consistency. And that kind of foundation is critical when you're planning to develop a technically sound, high IQ quarterback like SHEDEUR. Then there's Jim Schwartz. And if you're wondering why a defensive coordinator is so important in a conversation about quarterback development, here's why. Schwartz is a safety net. The Browns' defense, under his leadership, became one of the best in the league. He's not getting replaced. He's being retained. That decision isn't just smart, it's strategic. Because when you start a rookie quarterback, especially one you're grooming to be the face of the franchise, you need the defense to hold the line. Schwartz gives them that. He buys time. He keeps the team competitive, even if the offense sputters early. And that makes all the difference. No quarterback can thrive in constant crisis mode. With Schwartz, SHEDEUR doesn't have to be a superhero in year one. He just has to grow. Even Aiden Dunn, whose name might not stand out in the headlines, represents something vital: thoroughness. The Browns are interviewing everyone who could contribute to this new model. They're not narrowing their search based on reputation. They're evaluating based on vision, on fit, on shared philosophy. Dunn might not get the job, but his interview proves the Browns are leaving nothing to chance. And this entire approach, this total system building, tells you everything about where Cleveland is headed. They're not chasing short-term wins anymore. They're not gambling on upside with no structure. They're crafting a long-term developmental engine, an incubator for elite quarterback play. And SHEDEUR Sanders is at the center of it. That phrase, quarterback incubator, isn't just buzz. It's the plan. Build the staff. Install the system. Protect the defense. Then hand it all to a quarterback who's already wired for success. That's the model Kansas City used. It's the model Cincinnati followed. And now it's the one Cleveland's trying to replicate. For a team that's been burned by instability for decades, this is the first time it feels like they're playing the long game, with intention, with purpose, and with timing. Because the AFC North, it's shifting. The Ravens are in leadership limbo. The Steelers still don't have a reliable quarterback. The Bengals are completely dependent on Joe Burrow staying healthy. And now the Browns, of all teams, have a chance to step forward as the most stable organization in the division. That's not a typo. That's the opportunity. But it only works if they execute. If the coaching hire fits. If the system holds. If SHEDEUR becomes the pick. If the defense continues to dominate. It's all there, but the margin for error is razor thin. If they blow it. If they fall back into old habits, this won't just be another missed opportunity. It'll be a historic one, because this is the cleanest runway they've had in years. And the front office knows it. That's why this moment matters. Not because it's flashy, not because they're making headlines, but because they're doing something Cleveland has rarely done. Building quietly, building smart, and building for someone who hasn't even put on the jersey yet. This moment for the Cleveland Browns isn't just a coaching search. It's a test of whether a franchise that's lived most of its modern existence in a fog of dysfunction can finally pull itself out of the mud and start building something real, something lasting, something not destined to collapse under its own weight by week 10. And what makes it all feel so different, so deliberate, is that it's not centered around what they already have. It's centered around what they plan to bring in, SHEDEUR Sanders. The Browns aren't acting like a team that might take a quarterback. They're acting like a team that's already mentally committed to it. And more specifically, a team that's tailoring every major decision to fit one quarterback's style, strengths, and development needs. They've sat across the table from 5 different head coaching candidates. Not one of those names is arbitrary. Every single one is part of a bigger strategy. Not a rebuild, not a rebrand, a complete organizational remodel built around quarterback development and long-term alignment. Dan Pitcher is the clearest sign of this direction. There's nothing flashy about him. He doesn't have the media magnetism of a Sean Payton or the legacy of a Harbaugh. But what he does have is credibility where it counts. In the development room, his work with Joe Burrow wasn't theoretical. He was part of the machine to help one of the league's smartest quarterbacks transition from college star to NFL assassin. That's not coincidence. That's craftsmanship. Andrew Berry knows exactly what he began with Pitcher, and it goes beyond coaching. It's communication, structure, trust. Pitcher would bring continuity, which is something the Browns haven't had in, well, how many quarterbacks ago are we talking now? This is the kind of foundational coaching hire that lasts. Because it doesn't rely on gimmicks, it relies on alignment. And that's exactly what a high-processing quarterback like SHEDEUR Sanders would need from day one. But if Pitcher is a quiet technician, Todd Monken is a tactical wild card. Monen's time in Baltimore earned him massive respect behind the scenes. The way he adapted that offense after Lamar Jackson's injury was no small feat. He managed to maintain offensive functionality without one of the league's most dynamic players. And that says everything you need to know about his football mind. Coordinators can draw plays all day, but it's the ones who can adjust, who can survive the chaos, that elevate entire teams. That's what Monken brings. And more importantly, he brings a potential doorway to something even bigger. Because let's not pretend the John Harbaugh connection is just trivia. When Harbaugh refused to let Monken go, even when it cost him his job, that said everything about Monen's value inside the locker room. And now that Harbaugh is out in Baltimore, that opens up possibilities. Cleveland doesn't just have the space for a new coaching identity. They have a compelling reason to go after one of the most respected names in the business. A Harbaugh Monin reunion wouldn't just be competent, it would be culture-changing, especially for a team that spent years trying to define itself beyond failure. That's what makes this coaching search so layered. Every name leads to a different possibility, a different version of the same core goal: build an organization around a quarterback before he even arrives. Then you got Tommy Rees. Now, let's be real. His 2024 as interim OC didn't spark fireworks. The Browns' offense was uninspired. It looked dated. But that's not the whole picture. Rees wasn't handed a clean slate. He inherited a broken offense and a quarterback whose decline made the scheme nearly irrelevant. He didn't have the time, the control, or the freedom to implement anything meaningful. What does matter is his background under Nick Saban. At Alabama, Rees didn't just call plays. He helped cultivate quarterbacks, taught structure, command, the kind of preparation that translates to Sundays. It wasn't about building highlight reels. It was about building quarterbacks who could function inside a pro-style offense and survive the mental grind of the NFL. That's exactly the kind of environment SHEDEUR Sanders would benefit from. The Browns aren't making decisions based on recent box scores. They're hiring people who know how to build something. That's the real difference this time. And while the offense is being carefully reimagined, the defense isn't going anywhere. Retaining Jim Schwartz is one of the smartest, most underrated decisions of this entire process. While the offense restructures, the defense stays dominant. Schwartz has crafted a unit that can compete with anyone, anytime. And that gives Cleveland what most rookie quarterbacks never get: room to grow. When you've got a defense that can keep games within reach, you don't need your rookie quarterback to play hero ball. You don't need to force SHEDEUR into risky throws or break his confidence just to stay in games. You let him learn. You let him build comfort in the system. And you know the defense has his back. That's the ecosystem you want for a quarterback like SHEDEUR, who thrives in structure, who processes a game like a veteran, who doesn't need chaos to be effective. And the Browns are finally putting that system in place. Even the Aiden Dunn interview shows the depth of the plan. This isn't a token search. They're not checking boxes. They're exploring every option that fits the long-term development model. If you've got quarterback building experience, if you understand offensive cohesion, you're in the room. Because for the first time in recent memory, the Browns aren't looking for someone to just win now. They're looking for someone who can win sustainably. This is what smart franchises do. This is what Kansas City did with Mahomes, what Cincinnati did with Burrow, what Buffalo tried to do with Josh Allen. You build the framework first, then draft a quarterback into it, not the other way around. That's why this strategy matters. Because this isn't just about SHEDEUR. It's about Cleveland finally behaving like a franchise that understands what long-term success requires. And let's be honest, it's about time. This team has cycled through more quarterbacks and coaches than any other franchise in modern football. They've thrown rookies into unstable systems, only to blame them when things went sideways. They've fired coaches mid-season, rebuilt rosters for quarterbacks they didn't support. It's been chaos disguised as strategy. But now, for once, the Browns are playing it smart, quiet, deliberate, and it's not just refreshing, it's necessary. Because the AFC North isn't going to wait around. The Ravens are reorganizing. The Steelers still haven't found their future. The Bengals are one injury away from collapse. The door is open. The Browns could walk through it, but only if they finish this process. That means getting the coaching hire right, following through with drafting SHEDEUR Sanders, continuing to invest in development, not shortcuts. Because if they commit to this plan fully, then they're not just building for one season. They're building for a decade. And for a team that's lived most of the last 20 years one bad Sunday away from a total collapse, that's the most radical move they could make. Let us know where you stand. Are the Browns finally playing smart football, or is this just another chapter in a very long, very frustrating book? Drop your take in the comments, like the video if you've ever thought maybe this is a year. And hit subscribe if you want more deep dives into the boldest, weirdest, smartest moves in sports. Because this Browns story, it's not done. And it just might be the beginning of something real.